I'm not getting any audio.
Can you hear me, Coach?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Sweet. So, how's it going?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. So, looks like you took the job in December. You had your meet and greet earlier this month. Just talk about the opportunity at Armuchee, the Rome area. Just what attracted you to the job?
Yeah, I think even before this job came up, living in this area, currently living in Lindale, so I live in Floyd County, but I always thought that this job had something special behind it, and I always kind of felt that if it ever came open, that it would be something that I would pursue. And just lucky enough, it came open at the right time, and um, meeting with the administration and the plans for the school, as well as the investment from Floyd County Schools, as well with the exciting renovations that are going on through athletics. I mean, it's just been it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, and during your career, you've coached linebackers, receivers, special teams. So, when you're building this staff now, kind of where's your focus on, and who are you gonna kind of bring around you to handle those sides of the ball?
Well, I was very fortunate. The assistant coaches here that have been inherited of are great coaches, especially through the process of just meeting with them and talking about our vision. Just the guys that are here, guys like Coach Puckett, Tim Puckett. I worked with him at Rockmart a couple years ago. He's a strength and conditioning coach here, man. It's just I came into a really good situation with that. There might be an opportunity where I can possibly add somebody, but that's still in the process. And regardless, we just want to make sure that whoever's coaching on our staff are good people, care about the kids, and want to be a part of the vision.
And so you were at Rockmart last season, that's right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I got to talk about it. You guys played a heck of a schedule. I thought it was one of the most difficult ones in all of 2A. Let's talk about what that was like and just the success that team had there. Just you guys were lighting up the scoreboard. You played Cedartown to open it up. I mean, you guys really challenged yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Parson is not somebody that's going to cupcake a schedule. He wants to play the best. Um, his mantra is setting the standard, and he does that in everything that he does, and it reflects with the program. You know, I think the reason why Rockmart made a run this past year, coming down to the final play in the quarterfinals with the team that ended up playing in the state championship game, a lot of that goes back to scheduling. I think that the players at Rockmart were ready because they played some of the best in the state at the beginning of the year. So that mentality is something that's going to bode well for him for a long time. I mean, if you look at his success already at Rockmart, it's unmatched really in most places or most coaches in the entire state. I mean, he's done an incredible job there and is going to continue to do the same.
Yeah, I thought all of 2A was fantastic last year. But I mean, you guys at Armuchee, you're going to be in this Class A Division One. I thought back when it was the A private, A public, that was an interesting split. But with this Division One, it got so tough last year. A lot of the 2A powerhouses came down into it. A lot of the uh, private schools reside in it now. So it's going to be quality competition. So just what's the overall kind of goal this first year, and then just what you guys are trying to build at Armuchee?
Yeah, I think one thing that I talked about in the meet and greet and just kind of got this similar advice from a lot of guys that I've reached out to going through this process, is just making sure that everybody that's involved is all in. I think we do have talented players here. We've got a huge senior class and huge junior class when it comes to numbers wise, but also a lot of kids that have played a lot of football. So if we can get those kids invested in what we're doing, and we really just need to find an identity on offense and defense. That's what we're going through right now is, what do we want to be good at? What do we want to hang our hat on? And if we can get our kids to be invested in that and get our coaches to be invested in that, and I think we've got a really good chance to be successful this year. This region it's a great region. One of the best parts about it is there's not a whole lot of travel, but you don't have to travel far to have good competition in Floyd County. So there's a lot of good coaches in this county as well as the district, and it's been nice getting to know some of those guys through this process. But I think everything that we want to accomplish is right in front of us, and that's because we've got really great kids here.
Yep, you got Darlington in that region, Tryon, Pepperell, a historic program, Dade County, Coosa, Chattooga. So, I mean, last year was kind of a logjam for those 4 spots. I know it's going to be competitive this year. Darlington's going to have a new coach. But, yeah, I think Tryon's been on the rise. Pepperell's been they've had some great seasons as well. But I want to ask you about your playing career. So talk a little bit about that. Looks like you were a receiver. You played at Columbia Central. Was that in Tennessee?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you were a receiver there?
Yes, I was. My dad was actually the head football coach there. Was very fortunate to have a lot of success during the era that I played. We had some studs. Shaq Mason was on that team. He's one of the top guards in the country. Had a great career with the Patriots, starting guard for the Bucks now. Had a couple other guys that had really good college careers. We just had a really good mix of talent. And my dad did a really good job running that program. And he's the reason why I'm coaching football today is because of the type of coach he is, the type of man he is. He retired about 11 years ago from coaching. But, yeah, we had a lot of success and a lot of fun at my time at Columbia.
Yeah, that's awesome. Winning the state championship, and also looks like you came up short another year. So, I mean, really exciting career there. Were you always a receiver? Did you play both sides of the ball, or how did you kind of land at that spot?
Yeah, I actually, majority of my high school career, I was recruited as a defensive player. Just so happened Tennessee Tech was the only team or only college that recruited me for offense. So I was really a safety. That was kind of my primary position for the most part. Played quarterback my whole life growing up until we kind of realized that I couldn't throw. So my dad made that decision to move me to receiver and DB. But yeah, that kind of got to play all kinds of stuff growing up. I think my first year playing football, I was a center. So I think I've kind of seen it all when it comes to the playing field for the most part.
Yeah, that's awesome. I often think about that. I mean, I was a receiver, and I really never saw any time defensively, so I kind of have a receiver-centric view of the game. It's like I watch some of these defenses ball out, and it's just like I never experienced kind of what that's like to be a part of a defensive unit.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about Tennessee Tech, though, just what you learned playing in college, what it was like to just try to improve after the high school level, and just what's that taught you just being a student athlete at both levels.
Yeah, I think anytime you have the opportunity to play college football, then you actually get on campus, you realize how humbling it is. There's, in most cases, especially if you are fortunate enough to play at, like that FCS level, you were probably the best player on your team in high school, but there's 75 other U's out there when you're in college. I mean, especially when you got guys that are 22, 23 years old. I mean, it's extremely humbling because you realize that there's other things that you have to depend on. You can't just depend on running by guys anymore. You can't just depend on being stronger than the guy across. I mean, you've got to learn how to play football against guys that are faster and bigger and stronger than you are. So I think that was extremely humbling, and then just kind of understanding and learning techniques and more of the structure of how a program is run. That's kind of what I gained from the college experience, as well as the relationships in college. I mean, some of my best friends still today are guys that I played college football with. So overall, that experience really pushed me to continue in a career with football.
Absolutely. And I think another thing in college that kind of makes a difference, it's like the position battles are really tough. You have to be patient. It's not going to go your way. You're really fighting for playing time with a lot of talent. So that's something that is humbling, as you said. But I saw that you later went to the University of North Alabama to finish your college career, had success there. That was obviously before the transfer portal. So how did that come about?
Well, I think the transfer portal semi existed, but it was more of an email chain as opposed to this massive social media database that the transfer portal is now. But I think really what I was looking for was just a personal change. I'm very grateful for my time at Tennessee Tech. I was very fortunate to play a lot of games there, a lot of competitive games. Um, but North Alabama was just kind of what I was looking for when it comes to program structure. And really, I actually played less at North Alabama, transferring down to Division II, which they're Division I now. Um, but the program is historic. I mean, it's you get to UNA and it's extremely professional. Coached or got to play under Hall of Famer Bobby Wallace, who's won 3 national championships at the Division II level. Um, that experience at North Alabama, I feel like is probably has the most significant impact on my football career. Just when it comes to what does a program look like, what does the term elite look like? Um, I owe more than I can say to UNA's football program and my experiences there.
That's awesome. And then your first head coaching job was at Cumberland County, and then you
Yes.
came over into Rockmart. So, what was it that landed you at Georgia originally? Just the opportunity to coach with Biff Parson.
Yeah. So I actually met my wife while I was at Cumberland County. She is from Floyd County, and her dad, Kent Mathis, coached at Rockmart for a long time. Was an assistant coach there. He's still coaching tennis, still involved in the Rockmart community. Um, and when me and Hannah had decided that we wanted to get married, I moved down to Georgia and got my SPED certification, and was fortunate enough that Biff or Coach Parson was willing to hire me. It was kind of a shot in the dark. He didn't really know who I was, but um, he took a chance on me, and I'm forever grateful. Like I said, I owe more than I can say to Coach Parson with that experience. I mean, he really took a chance on me, and you know it. I hope he feels the same way that it paved out, because I'd do anything for him still, and will continue to be that way for forever. So it's
Yeah,
very, very appreciative.
well, I know it's a very exciting season for you at Rockmart these last few years. But at Armuchee, obviously you guys are going to have a standard for yourselves. You're trying to build something special there, but this first year, the goal is obviously going to be just continue improving every day, try to play your best football later on, prepare for this region schedule. So, are you kind of taking a more patient approach, or is it just every single day you guys are trying to continue to just raise the standard, build off the previous day?
Yeah, I think there's some things that we're trying to do with generating excitement. We're launching a big fundraiser next week, just to kind of provide the players with the equipment that they want. And I've kind of told them, your effort in this fundraiser is going to dictate the equipment and gear you get. So they're excited about that. Um, I think the big emphasis on when it comes to improvement is taking everything day by day. Be where your feet are is what I'm telling a lot of them. We're worried about getting better about what's right in front of us. We'll worry about the fall, region schedule, and all those things when they get here. We need to focus on how can I get better today and in this moment. And then once those things add up, we take care of business that way. Then I think we can be prepared to give this season our best shot.
And you're talking about, I think, the junior and senior class. So, what's been your first impression about some of the guys that, as you said, just have a few years of varsity experience under their belts?
Well, I think there's a lot of maturity, really just in this school in general. That's probably what's been most impressive on my first 2 weeks here is just how mature the kids are. Um, we've got a lot of size. You walk the halls and you see the football players, and we've got size. I mean, we've got a couple tight ends that are over 6'3". We've got some fullback, linebacker type bodies that are really good looking kids that play really hard. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle and a lot of tools that I think we can use. And I think the most or a very significant part of that is me and the coaching staff making sure we put these guys in the right place so they can be successful.
Yeah, and then just regarding the area of the state you guys are in, that northwest area, I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of community support there for just athletics in general. It's very important. We know how big Rome is, just the tennis center. You look at
Hmm.
Lake Point over by Cartersville. You have Calhoun up there. You have Dalton. I mean, these areas have a huge emphasis on athletics. So, and what have you just seen from the community and just overall at the school, just across the board?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first example, it's public news. It's been in the newspaper quite a bit the past couple of months, but Floyd County's turfing all 4 county schools' football fields. You know,
Nice.
we're getting out next year because they're building us in Coosa a field house. So we're going through the plans of that. And they want to hear our feedback. That's probably what excites me the most is, obviously we're going to ask for a lot of things because we want the best for our kids, but, coaches are being asked our opinions on these renovations and these things. I mean, that people don't understand how far that goes just to have your voice heard in those decision-making processes. So I think Floyd County is really showing that they care about athletics just as much as the bordering counties. So that is it is a special area, and I think it's an honor and privilege to be able to lead a program in an area like this where football and other athletics are extremely important.
100%, yeah. In Ford County, they've been outstanding. Whether it's the Corky Cal for us, the Georgia Elite Classic, just
Yeah.
the red carpet they roll out to just host the events. It's been a great experience to be up there. I had a great time at Georgia Elite this, what was it, a couple months ago or last month up in Rome. A great time. Uh, but just in terms of this schedule and what you guys are going to do in the spring, the off season, are you guys going to have a scrimmage this spring, or is it more just focused on working out, conditioning, just preparing physically?
Yeah, I think we are going to do a spring practice. We're not going to scrimmage. We're going to have our a little inter squad deal at the end. But we're going to have a whole new offense, whole new defense. Going to put a major emphasis on special teams on the off season. So I kind of felt it was most appropriate for us to not rush into a scrimmage this spring. But we will have one fall scrimmage that will get finalized before the season. But yeah, just the big part about this offseason is getting better at what our identity is going to be in. Like one thing I already know is we got to have great feet. We got to have offensive linemen that are willing to run their feet through blocks. We got to have defensive players ready to have active feet and tackling. So our feet are going to be a significant component to how good of a football team we're going to be. So during the offseason, that as well as a couple other things we're going to really focus and harp on getting better at.
Yeah, and then to the average football fan, I mean, anyone can see the game has changed over the past couple decades. There's a lot more, as we call it, eye candy, pre-motion or pre-snap motions, all these different designs. But how is it kind of evolved in your eyes, just someone that played back in the day, played in college, and just to where the game is at right now?
Yeah, I think it almost seems that as generations come and just hearing from, my dad who coached for a long time, is it's pretty almost like things kind of just keep coming back. There will be a new innovative offense, but then you realize when you actually look into it, that's what some programs and people were doing 20 or 30 years ago. It's just like one coach used to say, it's like plaid shorts. It's always going to come back every 20 or 30 years. But it's I think high school coaches are they are the front runners in this. It's really interesting to see, some of these big-time college and professional programs that are looking back and giving high school coaches credit for some stuff that they picked up on. And I think a lot of that is you just have to be really creative at this level. You can't recruit the guys that you want. You're not signing contracts to bring in specific guys for specific schemes. I mean, you get what you get, and you have to be creative with that. You have to do what is best for your players and not just what you know. So I think that's one thing that I'm going to have to get better at as well is learning what are our players good at and how can we build off that as opposed to fitting whatever my idea of an ideal offense is. So we're going to build everything around our guys.
Yep, and then last question, just as the new coach, I mean, what is your approach just to build that bond with the players just in the off season? Do you have anything kind of planned outside of the box that might not be conditioning, like a group activity, or just how do you guys kind of build that community and just support of each other?
Yeah, I think we got some of those things in the works. We will do something like that. I'm a very huge advocate of that. I think a lot of successful programs that I've worked for, like Rockmart last year during a bye week, Coach Parson took our kids bowling, and that was huge. The kids loved it. They had a great time. So we're going to do something like that here. But I think a lot of that building trust is just kind of our language and how we speak to our kids, how the coaches speak to coaches, how players speak to players. We just got to be very intentional on how we speak to each other, and know that if we're not speaking life into other people within our program, then you really don't have a place here. So I think our language is probably what's going to be the most significant factor on how we grow together.
And then last question, sorry to put you on the spot. Who do you have in the conference championships this weekend?
Oh, geez. You're going to have – now, I'm a big Titans fan, and they blew it this year, so I kind of gave up on watching.
Okay.
Let's see, who – I know the Bengals are in one, right?
Yeah, so let's just stick with that one. Who do you got, Bengals or Chiefs?
I like Joey B. Chiefs are tough to beat, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals. I think the spread's about 2.5. I'll take the Bengals on that.
Yeah, that spread's shrinking, and we got Najee over here. He's a big Bengals fan. I'm a Chiefs fan, so we're excited for that one. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised, though. Joe Burrow, man, wow.
He's the real deal. Both of them.
Yes,
two great quarterbacks.
For sure.
Generational.
Yes, he is. He's changing the game. All right, well, Coach Belew, thank you so much. Best of luck this offseason. Congrats on landing the job. It's really exciting news about the turf fields as well. I know a lot of big things are happening in Floyd County, so we really appreciate you joining us.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yep. All right. So there goes Coach Belew. If you guys want to watch Najee and I, yesterday we talked about the big matchup between the Bengals and the Chiefs. You can go to the Score Atlanta YouTube page for that on Underrated and Overlooked. What a game that's going to be. But that was a great conversation with Coach Belew. As he mentioned, he played for a state championship team in Columbia, Tennessee for his dad, who was the head coach. Went on to have a successful collegiate career, went right into coaching, and he's gone up the ranks. This is his second head coaching job. Be really exciting to see what they're able to do this first season. So let's just go real quick before the break on what Armuchee did in 2022. They started 2-0, win over Gordon Central. That's where Lenny Gregory, the former Collins Hill head coach, will be. So that'll be an interesting matchup. They beat Gordon Lee. That was 2-0. Then they dropped a game to Union County. That's a two-way school. And then Southeast Whitfield, who actually had a really solid year this year in 4A. And then they had a close loss to Coosa. They beat Chattooga. And then a tough stretch. They ultimately finished 3-7. So they're going to be trying to make the playoffs for the first time since, first time since 2009. And they will be looking to win their first playoff game since 1994 when they made a run to the quarterfinals. They also made a run to the semifinals in 93. And that was their only 2 seasons with a playoff win. So they've had some 5-5 years, 5-4. But the goal obviously will be to get back in the playoffs. Said they're revamping the offense and defense, so be a challenge, but also an exciting thing to watch with the Indians. But we'll go ahead and take a quick break. Thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community. We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So the other news on the coaching carousel, we saw Ed Dudley took over at Blessed Trinity earlier this week. That's a big spot that's filled now. And then an interesting one happened late last night. Parkview head coach Eric Godfrey resigned from the Panthers. He'd been there since 2014. He took over for Cecil Flo. He played at Parkview, so that is surprising. But in the article that broke last night, it says that he is expected to announce a new position at another school soon. So North Gwinnett still open. That could be an intriguing option right there for him to go over in Gwinnett. Maybe a situation where he doesn't even have to move. So, yeah, really interesting right there that Parkview will be in the hunt for a new head coach. And he really did help turn them around. Obviously, Parkview was great in the early 2000s when Jeff Francoeur met, what's his name? Matt Stinchcomb, his brother, outstanding championship teams. But then they had about a 5-year stretch where they didn't have a winning season. He kind of got them back on track. They do have a lot of talent there, including their starting running back, Kyer Spain, who's going to be returning for his senior season. We'll see what happens in that. But Parkview does lose Coach Godfrey and Colin Houck, their quarterback. He's going on to play baseball at the next level. So we will see what the Panthers look like next year in that tough region with Grayson, who also has a new head coach, Brookwood, Newton, South Gwinnett, be really and Central Gwinnett. So that would be an interesting one. And we are waiting to have Coach Stancil on shortly. Should be popping on in a couple minutes. But he's taking over at Dacula. That happened a few weeks ago, I believe. He was an assistant at McEachern in 2022. So he was at Peachtree Ridge. Matt Helmrich, the former Johns Creek head coach, took over Peachtree Ridge last season. And then he was at McEachern with Franklin Stevens. Franklin Stevens left McEachern, went to his alma mater at Burke County. And then after that, Coach Stancil put his hat in the ring, and then he gets the Dacula job. So that's a big one right there. Dacula, a great program. They made the semifinals as recently as 2021. They've had a ton of big-time prospects. They made the semis back-to-back years, 2019, 2018. Last year was a tough one, though, under Casey Vogt. And they finished the year 3-8. They lost to North Gwinnett in the first round. But if you look at what Dacula did last year, they played Denmark extremely close. That was a 28-25 loss. They played South Gwinnett extremely close, a 3-point loss to St. Pius. Their biggest losses, Buford and Mill Creek, got outclassed in that one. But then they closed out the year with a 48-9 win over Collins Hill. And that actually kept Collins Hill out of the playoffs, which could have led to Gregory's decision to step down. And then the road loss to North Gwinnett. But Dacula did have a pretty competitive season overall. Just didn't get the win total, or I think the tough loss for them was the Mountain View one in the region, and that's what ultimately put them in that first round clash with North Gwinnett. Let me text Coach Stancil real quick. Okay, so he was at Peachtree Ridge for 5 seasons, and Peachtree Ridge is a fairly new school. They did win a state title in 2005. I believe that was when they tied with Roswell. Yes, it was a tie. They both won. And then they were struggling. I mean, I don't really know what was causing it. Maybe it was just the roster numbers, but their offense was very low in production, and then just trying to compete against all these Gwinnett powerhouses was a huge challenge. But Coach Stancil definitely helped the Lions made strides. They became much more competitive, and then he's also held jobs at Morrow, Northside Warner Robins, Lithonia, and at Norcross. And he was an outstanding football player at Colquitt County. So he knows his football, he knows his Georgia high school football, and it's going to be a great fit for him at Dacula. And yeah, he's in the Colquitt County Sports Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2020. He was a quarterback for the Packers, and then he went on to Jacksonville State. He threw for 5,182 yards in college. He was also a baseball player, just an incredible athlete. We got him? Awesome. Coach, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. So I was just going over the new job at Dacula. When did it become official?
It came official Thursday night. The board approved Thursday night last week. So officially talking to the kids for Friday morning.
Awesome. So yeah, really recently. And so you were at McEachern last season. It was kind of a tough year for the Indians, but you guys did play some really good competition, had some big wins, always exciting there. What was that year like for you, though, just at McEachern last season? And then when did you feel like you could be moving on back to Gwinnett?
It was a good year for me. I got to learn a couple new things from Franklin Stevens, and it was a really good year coaching with him, just kind of getting an understanding of a different way to do things. I was with Coach Belew so long at Norcross, and then, of course, I was the head coach at Peachtree Ridge for those 5 years. So being able to see things done in a different way was kind of exciting and, added some new tools to my tool belt.
Awesome. And so what was your position last year with McEachern?
I was just a quarterback coach. I enjoyed just, having to deal with my quarterbacks and get them ready. And, the worst thing about that is our starter ended up breaking his leg in our first region game. So it was tough going from there because the kid that we had to play was a freshman. So he wasn't ready for 7A football, but he will be good in the future.
Yeah, so that was a incredibly challenging schedule you guys played. You guys played Hughes, Douglas County. You got the win over Douglas County. That's a big one right there. You beat Newton. So, yeah, I'm looking at it. That was a successful season despite just what happened in the region and then obviously the adversity having to throw in a freshman. But, I mean, what do you feel like heading over to Dacula, a program you're obviously familiar with? You've seen what they've done in recent seasons, just the opportunity there.
I'm sorry, say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Just what do you feel about the opportunity at Dacula? I mean, you're obviously familiar with how much success that program's had, just the overall area. So, I mean, how excited are you for that challenge?
I'm very excited because the best part of it is I'm in the community. I live in Dacula. I'm 6 minutes from the school. So I'm able to give a lot more to the kids, the community, and things like that. So, our youth park is right across the street. So I'll be able to be there all the time, checking out our younger kids. Our middle school is right across the street. So we're going to do some things different to help integrate those guys into, Dacula and keep everything going. The one thing that everybody says is if you can keep Dacula kids in Dacula, good things can happen because we always have talent. It's a really tough kid, like kids that want to put in the work, kids that want to be held accountable, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to see where it takes us.
Yeah, and how much of the staff was in place? Obviously, you haven't been there too long, but just coming over there.
There's quite a few guys that are going to stay on staff. The one thing that I think about that's really good about, places like this is you come in and coaches that are currently on staff want to stay. And that tells you two things. The administration is pretty good, and it also tells you that the kids are really good. So being around, people that want to be at a place is really good. We're going to add a few pieces to that puzzle. So, by doing that, I think we'll have a great staff. I have about 18 or 19 coaches on staff, so we're going to be able to give a lot to our kids and help. Then one of the things we want to do is we want to grow our roster. So we're in the halls at the school right now, looking for kids that want to play or looking for kids that, think they want to play and trying to encourage them to come out for spring. So hopefully we can add to our roster numbers.
Yeah, and what's that sales pitch like? Trying to get a guy that uh, kind of could be interested in it, but just to kind of show him what playing football for Dacula could mean, and just the opportunity and what they could get out of it.
I think one of the things that we are going to focus on is kind of having a family uh, atmosphere. You know, everybody's going to care for each other. Everybody's going to do things for each other. And what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with having another brother, having another dad or whatever, being around to help you somehow be successful. We're going to really do a good job of concentrating on our kids' grades and trying to help them make sure they're successful, not just on the field, but also in the classroom, so that whenever they do hang up those cleats, they got an opportunity to be successful in life, not just success on the field.
Yeah, and as an athlete, you were a great baseball player as well, so you obviously have no problem with getting football players to play other sports, people that play other sports to play football. So just what's the overall kind of sense around the just athletics at Dacula and just having these guys that can star in multiple sports?
I mean, we have a lot of kids right now that currently play multiple sports. The freshman quarterback, I think all of the quarterbacks that we have on the team all play baseball. One of our starting safeties is a basketball player. So we got guys that play multiple sports here, and they understand that the more active they can be, the better they're going to be overall. But again, I think it's one thing that we are preaching here is to, you know, be a big family, and if there's something that I can do to help the baseball coach or something I can do to help the basketball coach, I want to be there for them to create the family atmosphere for everybody.
Yep, and gosh, just looking at all the places you've coached at, Norcross, Morrow, Northside Warner Robins, Lithonia, McEacher, Peachtree Ridge, now Dacula. I mean, you've seen a lot of Georgia high school football. You've seen how these programs run. What do you think, though, just about this region you guys are in, just the level of competition and what it's going to be like, just how huge these games are going to be?
I mean, you got Buford and you got Mill Creek, so you got the past 2 years you got state champions in our region. Actually, past 3 years, you got the champions, because you got Collins Hill, who won it the year before. So you got a lot of talent in Gwinnett County, but not just in our region. And the entire Gwinnett County, each region is pretty good. You got Grayson on the other side, you got Norcross on the other side, North Gwinnett. So football in Gwinnett is really, really good. There's a lot of kids that can play football. I think that we have great coaches that try to prepare the kids to be successful at the next level. But if you go back and you look at the schools, the thing that stands out is just our students that just want to be students are successful too, because we push them and we strive for them to be successful in the classroom, to also be productive citizens and make something of themselves outside of athletics.
Yep, and so you brought up Mill Creek. They obviously won the state title last year. I don't know if you watched the game, but what did you just think of the way that team played late in the season, just what they were able to do just in all three phases, and just what that big 7A championship meant for that Hawks program?
It was huge. They've been knocking on the door for a long time. The thing that I realized is, if we saw them in their scrimmage game, we went and scouted them because we were playing North Gwinnett in the Corky Kell. So we went and watched North Gwinnett versus Mill Creek. So I watched them from when they started to the finish. And, the thing that I thought was really great about them, and Josh does a really good job of, those guys played for each other. I think Caleb Downs did a really good job of keeping those guys together from when they were in the youth park and things like that, and they were a big family, and they played together and they played hard, and it gave them an opportunity to be successful, and they just kept getting better and better each week because they believed in each other.
Yeah, 100%. I think with Buford, I mean, Justice Haynes just went off when they beat Mill Creek, but one of the things that I thought Mill Creek did last season better than any team I've seen is, I mean, it's a credit to the players too, but they had guys that they could plug in from defense where they might only get 8 or 10 offensive snaps, doesn't matter, but just putting them in at the right time. That's something at the high school level where I think they really help take that to the next level. So Do you feel like that's something that's going to be adapted kind of throughout these Gwinnett programs, throughout Class 7A, just trying to maximize talent like that?
I think at the end of the day, you have to play your best players. Now, you got to have those kids that are, role players and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, for you to be successful in 7A football, you have to play your best players on the field, put your best players on the field. And, whether it's a package, whether it's, this guy plays both ways all the time, whatever you decide to do, whatever the kid can handle, I think is very important. And I think you'll see a lot more. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to practice so that our kids are conditioned enough to be able to do those things and help us out on both sides of the ball, because at the end of the day, you want your best players on the field.
Certainly. And just what's the rest of the offseason looking like this spring, and just how excited are the guys just for this opportunity to come out and just play in the big spotlight that is Dacula?
For me, I think, finalizing my staff and then getting my spring schedule and summer schedule going is huge. Spring practice is right around the corner. One of the things that I'm doing right now is, when you called, I was actually talking to Georgia Tech, because they were in here talking to one of our kids that are, that's graduating this year. So I'm, even though I didn't coach those guys, I'm in here trying to help them get into the next level, because at the end of the day, everything we do, whether it's coaching football, teaching the class, whatever it is, our goal is for our kids to be successful, and I want to help every kid. And so if they're part of the Dacula family, I want to help them be successful. So,
All right, looks like Coach went out right there, but thank you so much for coming on, Coach Stancil. We're definitely – oh, there he is.
I'm sorry, I was getting a phone call. So what I was talking about is, we're going to continue to help get those guys into school, guys that are graduating this year, and then we're going to keep on getting everybody else going in the right direction that finishes up next year and the year after that. So.
Yep, and then just last question, just playing at Colquitt County, coming up through just the town of South Georgia, playing Georgia high school football at such a high level. I mean, how has that just prepared you just mentally, the toughness? I mean, what did that mean just to compete at that level?
It was a grind every day. Just knowing that every day, the guys you practice against, the teams you played against, you had to be at your best, and that's what we try to teach our kids here. I think Gwinnett County football is very similar to South Georgia football in the sense of you're going to compete and grind every day. I think Dacula, for me, is more like home to me in a sense of, because it's a small town. We have a downtown. Some schools you don't have your downtown feel, and we have a downtown feel, and I really appreciate the community aspect of Dacula High School, and that's one of the things that drew me to this place, because it kind of reminds me of home, and being able to not be too far Atlanta, but also have a small town feel, and so that the community can provide, and so we can help the community strive to be the best it can be.
Oh, yeah, it's a great atmosphere. I think it wasn't a new stadium that was built, but significant renovations just a few years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. They fixed the visitor side, and then putting the turf down. I mean, they've done a really good job of taking care of facilities here.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations. I know Dacula's really excited to have you there. Can't wait to see what the Falcons do this season.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you bet. All right, so there goes Coach Stancil. As you heard, he's been at a lot of successful places. McEachern last year, including them, and thought that was interesting what he said about the injury at quarterback. I had forgotten about that. It said he went down in the first region game. That was to Harrison. They actually ended up beating Harrison in that one 10-7. And then, I mean, defensively they did well all season, but as he was mentioning, they played North Gwinnett in the opener. That was a tough game. Fell kind of short in that one. Played Hughes the second game. No one was able to hang around with them this year. Arguably the best team in the state. Douglas County, Newton, Tucker, and then Valdosta. I mean, just a packed schedule. That's what the standard is at Dacula. They're going to do the same thing this year. to prepare themselves for Region 3, and that's going. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about McEachern last year. One sec. Yeah, with Dacula, St. Pius, Jones County, South Gwinnett, Tucker, and Denmark last year in non-region. And then, of course, their region's going to have 3 teams that have won state championships in the last 2 seasons: Buford, Mill Creek, and Collins Hill. So, huge challenge right there, but one that I think Dacula has the athletes. They have had the past success. It's just going to be a question of whether or not they can come out and get it done this next season. I think, let's see, 2021 they went 9-5, made that run to the semifinals, and that's where they also lost to Hughes. So their only losses the previous year were to Buford and Hughes late in the season, and Mill Creek. So it's been those same teams. If they can get over the hump with that, it will be interesting to see what Mill Creek looks like next year. They have replaced a lot of playmakers that helped build that run that was years in the making, including their quarterback, Hayden Clark, obviously Caleb Downs, a bunch of other talented playmakers, but obviously Coach Lovelady does a great job. But we're going to take one more quick break before we close out the show.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are a Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So some sad news. Last night, Carver Atlanta's offensive coordinator, Coach Kevin Bell, he passed away. So that's a tough loss for the Panthers. Says the Panther family has lost a son, brother, coach, friend, and most important, a father figure to our kids. Coach Bell was a genuine caring coach that gave his all to the Panther family and community. You will be missed. So he was their offensive coordinator. Tough loss for the Carver community, so we will see what Coach Miles does to replace that offensive coordinator role. But just wanted to say we're thinking about the Panthers. That is a tough blow for them to lose a beloved coach like that. And then see the other news. I'd mentioned the Parkview vacancy that just opened up with Coach Godfrey leaving his alma mater. I thought that was really interesting. Kind of just happened at the dead of night last night. And then some news on the basketball front. There have been 4 Georgia players selected for the McDonald's All-American Games. That's going to be March 28th in Houston. It's a huge honor. It's going to be Isaiah Collier of Wheeler, Stephon Castle of Newton. He's a tremendous scorer. And then Collier is the #1 recruit nationally. He is signed to Southern Cal. Castle signed to Connecticut. And then Essence Cody, he plays for Valdosta. And then she plays for Valdosta. And then Courtney Ogden of Westminster. So 2 boys, 2 girls are going to play. It's going to be on ESPN. That game's been a staple since 1977, so a huge honor right there. On the girls' side, Cody, she's 6'3", she's going to Alabama. And then Courtney Ogden, who's been a huge playmaker for Westminster. She is a 5'11" wing. She's going to Stanford. So that's exciting right there to have Georgia represented in that. We'll see how they do right there. And then, let's see. Najee has his games of the week up on Score Atlanta. He's been talking to all the coaches. And yeah, he's previewing the Grayson at Newton. That one is going to be massive. And that one took place last night, right? Who won? Newton? So yeah, and he had Grayson's coach on the show last week talking about it. Said he just has a really tough team, plays well together. But Newton, I think it's just that talent they have at the guard position. Let's look at that real quick. That's a big win, and I'm just telling you, 7A is absolutely loaded with state championship contenders right now. You had Pebblebrook have a huge win over Norcross recently. It's just they're all beating each other, and it's just going to be who's the last one standing, who has the best game in the big moment. So that final was 54-43. And interesting enough, Newton was coming off a 2-game losing streak. They lost to IMG Academy, but then they lost to Parkview 71-69. That was their first region loss, so they really needed that win over Grayson to get that number 1 seed heading into the region tournament. That was huge. So 54-43. Don't have any stats from that game, but a big win. Let's see if they play again. Yeah, they'll have a rematch at Grayson on February 10th. Grayson drops to 13-5. They're now 4-1 in the region. They're going to, so Grayson already beat Parkview. I mentioned Newton lost to Parkview, and then it's just so weird. So Parkview's 2-3 in the region right now. Newton and Grayson are both 4-1, and so the team that beat Newton is basically, at this point, they'd be out of the playoffs because you have South Gwinnett and Archer with better region records. Obviously, the region tournament's going to decide that, but I think that just goes to show that Region 4, that is going to be an absolutely thrilling region tournament right there. There's not going to be a round where you can take any games off. It's going to be 4 playoff spots that are really up for grabs. Let's see what else happened. What big girls games on your radar?
Griffin and Baldwin.
That's right. Yeah, Griffin and Baldwin.
Friday night. Griffin's 13-7. Griffin is 16-1 this season.
Yep.
I'm gonna have one tomorrow. Griffin coach. Hopefully Baldwin coach. If not, those two. That'll be a good match.
Yes, it will. So Najee's going to highlight the Griffin-Baldwin game. That's a 4A matchup this Friday. And as he said, Griffin is on absolute fire right now. They did lose to Hughes and Grayson. Those were obviously out of 4A. They did lose to Kell. Kell's just an outstanding team as well, ranked number 1 in 5A. But outside of Baldwin, they won that previous matchup 53-52 earlier this month. They've been absolutely demolishing teams. They beat Spalding 84-36 this past weekend, and so it's a big top 10 showdown with Baldwin. We'll see if Baldwin can kind of stop this hot streak that Griffin's on right now. And then I think with 4A on the girls' side, you got Luella. They're playing outstanding right now. You have Westminster. We mentioned Courtney Ogden. She's going to play in the McDonald's All-American game. You have Holy Innocents. You just have a ton of top teams. But I still think Luella has a real chip on their shoulder after losing that heartbreaker last year to Marist. And I mean a heartbreaker. They hit a half-court buzzer beater after a turnover to force overtime. Luella had the ball, got it stripped. The girl goes to half-court, chucks up a desperation 3. It goes in, and then they lose on a buzzer beater. They were that close to the state title. And then this year, they have not lost once in Class 4A. They beat Mount Zion. I'm not kidding. They beat Mount Zion, Jonesboro to kind of open region play, 71-0. 71-0. They beat McDonough's girls 87-13. They beat Mount Zion again 51-9. And then they just beat Hampton 89-15. And then Woodland, which is a top 10 team, they beat them 70-55. So they do have a tough matchup against Stockbridge this Friday. That's a top 10 team. Still have to play Lovett. They'll play McDonough and Pace Academy again. But I think right now in 4A you have Luella, Griffin, Holy Innocents, and Westminster are all in the ring for that title. Hold on one sec. And then, yeah, the Kell girls, that's the 5A front runner right now. 6A still absolutely top to bottom competitive with River Ridge, Forest Park, Woodward Academy, Lovejoy, the Hughes girls, Rockdale County. And then in 3A, Hebron Christian still undefeated. They're 18-0, but they're going to have to contend with Wesleyan and then Lumpkin County, one of the best shooting teams in the state. And then in 2A, Mount Perrin is 20-1. So I think at this point, the only undefeated teams you have the Hebron Christian girls and then the Eagles Landing boys, who are 20-0. So just two undefeated teams in the state right now. Christian Heritage as well. Christian Heritage boys are 17-0. So three undefeated teams left. It's going to be really exciting. And then Christian Heritage, they're in the Class A Division II with Green Forest, who's played just a national schedule as a Class A team. They got two 7-footers. They're massive. They're always good, and they're currently ranked number 1. So it's been a really exciting week. I think the region tournaments, they're going to be starting, I think, mid-February. And then once March comes, it's going to be straight to the playoffs. It's going to be really busy, but exciting to see all the upsets that are guaranteed, just the big shooting days, big performances, and just so many future college prospects in the state on both sides, boys and girls. We'll have more.
5 finalists for MVP in NFL, though.
Okay. Now I just said they've just announced the 5 finalists for MVP in the NFL. Let's hear it.
So we got Patrick
Mahomes.
We got
Josh Allen.
We got Justin Jefferson.
Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts. Okay. I think, man, that's tough. When do they have to decide it?
It'll be announced February 9th on NFL Honors.
But are they deciding it before this week?
I don't even think they're going to. Well, I think the week before Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, I'd hold off my vote until the end of this game. I mean, Joe Burrow, if he pulls it off, I'm cheering for the Chiefs. Don't.
Analysts are calling it a legacy-defining game. I don't know how you.
A legacy-defining game? Yeah, they're still too young.
That's what I'm saying. Like Mahomes is 27, Burrow is 26.
Yeah, it's not legacy-defining.
They play each other 3 times. It's different. They play each other 10+ times.
Yeah. We'll see, though. I think that's a good list, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts gets it. I mean, he's playing outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, his impact.
Yeah, he did miss a couple games, but, man, he's had a great year. Wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow gets it. Definitely don't think Josh Allen will. Don't think Justin Jefferson will. And then Mahomes, wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets it. So I think it's going to be between those 3 quarterbacks who are all still in it. But, yeah, we will be back with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins tomorrow. He's going to cover the waterfront of basketball, recruiting news, anything he has on the radar, his games of the week. And then I'll be back on Friday. We'll try to get some more coaches on and get into these changes as well as the recruiting news. And then more basketball news. But thank you so much for joining us. We will be back.